What if the reason we struggle to take better care of the spaces and planet entrusted to us is because we never learned how to properly and consistently take good care of ourselves? We tend to define sustainable living by what we can build and harvest. Smarter cities, stronger systems, renewable resources. But rarely do we ask, what sustains the people doing the building and maintaining for life and living to be sustainable? In 2020, my family and I started a garden. It was about a month into lockdown, and my then 5-year-old had just completed virtual school for that day. Mommy, today is Earth Day. Can we start a garden? I clearly was not ready for that question, and it showed. See, I was home recovering from multiple back-to-back surgeries related to a cancer diagnosis, so I wasn't sure if I could physically get involved with starting a garden. But while recovering, I did notice something. Overall, I felt better than I had in years. It wasn't the surgeries that made me feel better, though. It was the space. For the first time in a long time, I had the space and quiet to take stock. And I realized I had been burning out. And this wasn't the first time. But this time, I couldn't just move on. I had to sit in that truth and ask one question. What am I doing here again? So I took the time and did some uncomfortable self-exploration. And slowly, it became clear. I had never put any system in place to protect myself from burnout. One glaring clue, a few years earlier, I had purchased one of those massage memberships. You know the one. It's where you buy a service every month, whether you use it or not. And if anyone asked me what self-care looked like to me, I would say quickly and confidently, I love a good massage. It's my thing. Yet, when the lockdown went into effect, I found out I had 27 unused massage credits. That's 27 months, over 2 years that I ignored the very thing I described as my thing, my form of self-care, the way I prioritize myself. It was both jarring and eye-opening. Right then and there, I knew I had to rebuild intentionally. So I started taking daily walks, doing grounding work, reestablishing boundaries, and redefining self-care. I had to figure out what self-care meant to me and needed to do for me. That would take trial and error. I didn't have it all figured out, but I knew that for the first time, I was going to build something sustainable. So, back to that garden question. Physically, I knew I couldn't do it on my own. But mentally and emotionally, I had more space, clarity, energy, and peace than I had in quite some time. I looked at my 5-year-old and I said, well, let's see what we can do. So at my request, my husband went into that jungle we call a garage, and he fished out a greenhouse kit I had purchased 3 years earlier. You know, one of those someday projects. And we got to building the greenhouse. And then we planted seeds and seedlings. And over time, we began to grow broccoli and kale, green onions and herbs, lettuce and spinach, peppers and tomatoes, even carrots and potatoes, to name a few. Our little garden came through for us in more ways than one. Self-care is often reduced to aesthetics and luxury. In healthcare, aesthetics is characterized as cosmetic, non-essential, not life-saving, not vital. It's no wonder that self-care too is often seen as non-essential, not life-saving, not vital. But what we're missing is that self-care can serve as the infrastructure that makes long-term sustainability possible. There are different models of sustainability, and they focus on different pillars. The UN's model, for example, focuses on the 5 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, partnerships, and peace. Another model focuses on environment, economics, social, cultural, and people. Still, another model doesn't mention people at all. But no matter the model, self-care is never named directly. And then you dig a little deeper, and you realize, yeah, they don't talk about it at all. It is not surprising that no matter the space I've worked in, from the clinical rooms to the classrooms to the corporate rooms, I see the same problem emerge. We keep trying to build sustainability while burning out the people who are supposed to uphold it. And the ripple effects are huge. Consider a high-level lead environmental engineer who burns out mid-project. That's not just one person that needs recovery. It affects jobs, families, communities, and the population at large. That engineer takes with them years of specialized training and knowledge, and replacing them can cost twice their salary or more. Then you notice the real cost are missed deadlines, failed projects, communities who are waiting for solutions indefinitely, and stalled climate action. Billions invested in sustainability projects are on the line. Suddenly, self-care is not just personal anymore. It's a public issue. Because we can't expect to build true sustainable systems with unsustainable human practices. The truth is, self-care is left out of the conversation because quiet is kept. We're still internalizing it as selfish, privileged, unnecessary. But in a world that pushes us to do more, move faster, and be constantly productive, self-care is the internal infrastructure that allows us to stay clear, present, grounded in purpose, and at peace. Self-care is resilience in motion. It's strategy. It's both the gas and the driver pushing the gas pedal. When we ignore self-care, we are at higher risk for overwhelm, burnout, and going through a series of short-term solutions that can't hold up. In its wake are fractured communities, miscommunication, and unstable systems. When we treat ourselves like machines, we are setting ourselves up to glitch and break. And then we design projects, programs, and policies that simply mirror our instability. But when we treat people like ecosystems, we create resilient structures structures that can weather the storm and sustain long-term growth. So, what does that look like? Well, it looks like practicing self-care regularly. That could take hours, or it could take minutes. Deep breathing, journaling, going for walks, taking a quiet lunch, doing a tech detox, or going for that massage. All of those are forms of self-care. Sounds so simple, right? So what's the problem? We ignore regular self-care because we haven't taken the time to sit down and figure out how it fits into our everyday life in a way that makes sense. The best way to do that is intentionally, in the form of developing a great self-care routine. Through trial and error, I found that the best self-care routines sit on 4 building blocks. They have to be individualized. That means it needs to be specific to you. It needs to involve activities that restore and recharge you, not something you heard on social media or on your favorite podcast. It needs to be prioritized, taking its rightful place throughout your schedule and not relegated to happen when there's time. It needs to be normalized, done so frequently that even the people around you come to expect it, respect it, and be motivated by it. And it needs to be optimized. If something's not working, we don't just abandon the self-care routine. We adjust it, we adapt it to our needs. When I used those 4 building blocks, I was able to build a great self-care routine that not only fit into my life, but actually made it better. It didn't have to take hours. It just needed to be consistent and intentional, because that's what made the difference. So that's what happened with our little victory garden. It became part of my self-care, tailored in a way that I could work it and grow with it. Every day, sometimes twice a day, I went outside in the sunshine and I was doused in vitamin D, the sounds of nature, and the occasional car horn. Watering, pruning, harvesting, sitting, breathing, pausing. Tending to that garden nourished me physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually at a time when all of that was needed. And it gave us food. Food for my family, my friends, and my community. What started out as the simple request of a 5-year-old became a personal act of care, and then something much more for me and my community. It reminded me that when we tend to ourselves with consistency and care, we make room for the things that matter, for service, for generosity, and for sustainability. Self-care is deeply personal, as it should be. But the absence of self-care doesn't just impact the individual. It affects systems, shapes communities, and alters the future we're trying to build. It is time we stop treating self-care as solely a personal issue that happens when there's time, and start treating it also as a public responsibility. We all should be collectively practicing regular and real self-care. This is not about luxury. It's about longevity. Because if we are serious about building systems that last, we also must be serious about the well-being of the people building, maintaining, and upholding it. So let's stop leaving self-care out of the sustainable living conversation, because it's not just the missing piece. Self-care is the key that unlocks true sustainability. Thank you.